It's time to dive into the world of finance with Forum Daily's weekly market update with Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here. Take it away, Catherine.
Thanks, Nima. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly market recap. I'm Catherine Murray. We are seeing mixed North American equity markets today, starting with the TSX. It is trading slightly lower following a lower close on Thursday. And the TSX is actually on pace for 2% declines this week, following about 3.6% gains last week. So we're reversing some of those nice gains we saw last week, which was actually the best performance we've seen in 5 months for the TSX. Away from that, when we take a look at the U.S. markets, they are up mostly higher, as I said, on the day. But the S&P 500 is actually on track for 3 weeks of declines. So stepping back, why is this happening? What's the market narrative? Well, it seems though this week, good news is actually bad news. And what do I mean by that? Well, the ISM services number did come in quite a bit stronger than expected, leading investors to believe that maybe that'll keep the Fed on a hawkish stance, just concerned about the growth. Remember, they've been hiking rates over 500 basis points over the past year to really slow down growth. And here we have the ISM services number coming in stronger than expected. The other aspect weighing on the markets, of course, is that higher price of oil. Again, moving higher this week as well. We'll get to that in just one second. And also, of course, the stronger U.S. dollar. All of that weighing on market sentiment right now. No capitulation, though, from strategists at all, though. Away from that, Canadian dollar slightly higher versus the U.S. dollar. The price of crude oil is up by about 1% today. We've seen 3 weeks of straight gains for WTI. And if you have an interest, do watch my show, The Buck Stops Here, which airs on Sunday mornings. Last week, I interviewed Eric Nuttall. I mentioned this last week, but if you missed it, catch it if you have an interest in energy and energy stocks. It is definitely still available to see on our website, of course. Also, Bitcoin trading slightly lower today and gold essentially unchanged. Now, the two big stories in Canadian corporate and economic news this week, of course, the jobs numbers, which we received this morning, a gain of 40,000 versus expectations of a gain of 25,000. So a little bit better there. Unemployment rate held steady at 5.5%. Better, but I would say these numbers get revised every month. So just let's wait and see what the revisions are. The other, of course, key story this week was the Bank of Canada. There was no change, the interest rate. It was held at 5%, and that was very much expected. But it was a bit of a hawkish pause. So there is the possibility that we might see further rate hikes, and that they will continue to be very data dependent. The view from economists and a consensus perspective is that they will be on hold for the remainder of 2023. So perhaps we stand here at that 5% level, which is the highest interest rates we've seen in 22 years. Away from that, from corporate news and equities, Magna is doubling their EV parts. We've also learned that Rogers is selling $3 billion worth of bonds to refinance their debt. Interesting comments out of Goldman as well. They do expect to see a pickup in IPOs, initial public offerings, which would help jumpstart the capital markets. It's been a very slow 2023 in terms of deals. And then also in the news this week, importantly, Apple, there's a report out of China, and this has been a big overhang on the stock, that they have ordered officials in government agencies to not use Apple products, Apple iPhone, for work and or bring them to work. So that's been a bit of an overhang on the stock. Also, though, be aware that there is expectations that Apple will launch their new iPhone 15 on Tuesday of next week. Away from that, keep in mind as well that when we look at those U.S. bank stocks, there have been some significant underperformers, down by about 20%. There's concerns as it relates to the Fed hikes that have been pressuring some of the bank balance sheets. That would be, of course, some of the smaller banks. And also just this higher for longer, putting pressure on some of the margins for the banks. And this is all ahead of the big Wall Street bank conference next week, which is hosted by Barclays. And lastly, also just to be aware in terms of the economy and items that, of course, pressure the economy, the UAW strike deadline is next week, September the 14th. A lot going on, Nima. I'll leave it there. Have a great weekend. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Catherine. Again, that was Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here with Forum Daily's weekly market update. For more coverage on the markets, you can always tune into The Buck Stops Here every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern only on the News Forum Network.